In Tolkien's works, elves remain pretty aloof at details, though he has hints here and there into the inner workings of elves. This will be a mix of my own extrapolations and possible views that Tolkien might have had in his day and age. First off, elvish nobility. While most people think that an elvish king or queen must be similar to British royalty, and Tolkien himself may have also viewed them as such, an elf king appears to be a title more akin to tribal chief than aristocracy of the lorded class that Britain had for so long. No one who's lived for hundreds of years with much in the way of knowledge would seriously want to live as a peasant under the unquestioning thumb of a cloistered class isolated from them. For one thing, the king would pretty much know and have spent time with every single one of his subjects, as he has hundreds of years to do so. It is lack of time that human leaders can't be like this as the population increases, but with elves they can follow the same egalitarian rules of a small population and replace it with lots of time. Also, the elvish birth rate is tiny compared to humans, so it's rather easier to know everyone. The king is a person who is very knowledgeable, is very trusted, and is a great negotiator and diplomat, and agreed on by most of the elves. The first kings, Ingvi, Finwë, and Elwë, were all picked by their people to meet with the Valar and represent them after they were first created, as the Valar were much more like actual kings and lords in a completely different but benevolent class. The elf kings would be more considered British MPs or representatives or even generals than kings as we know them. They were given status and may or may not have been remiss of the duties of the average elf, which was required to maintain subsistence labor. While there are cases where kings were required to pass judgments and make laws forbidding things such as secrecy laws, it was more for military reasons and not for administration. The caste system is never mentioned. Why, the stupid love triangle in The Hobbit where the king is looking down on the idea of his royal son marrying a low-caste elf just sounds silly. A king will step down when the popular opinion is against them, much like a prime minister, and as he knows everyone in his kingdom personally, he can quickly gauge the opinion of the people. When the children of Fëanor were spreading rumors and Finrod's people refused to help him with Beron's quest, Finrod stepped down and left his kingship to a replacement. His authority lives and dies by the will of the people, though he is not afraid to command, and they will follow as soldiers to a general in the case of military threat. The job of king always seems to come from a noble line, except in the case of Thranduil's father, quite akin to the passage of chiefdom by the elves in ElfQuest, mostly due to tradition. But it's also a well-honed skill many other elves may just expect their children to be much better gifted at, and they themselves are better at other things they can focus on and not worry about strategy and politics. Of course, you'll note a lack of powerful queens. Much of that has to do with Tolkien's own Catholic background. Only Galadriel and Melian were given nobility status by Tolkien. One was a lady, and the other was a queen who was a Maiar, who still did not have the last word on what Thingol did with his kingdom, but more stuck around for love. And finally, we come to money. Elves straight up have no need for money among themselves. They appear to be a perfect commune. Like the giant stone coins on the island of Yap, everyone agrees what people own. If someone is greedy or short-shrifting, which could happen during a child's development, meaning until they're about 50, people will be considerably less helpful to them, and the child will learn their lesson over time to give as they get. This system works very well with small tribes and villages, but doesn't work as well when the population expands. As you will know people over thousands of years, you'll know who owes whom, and what, and who the slackers are. And when it comes to basic work, unlike as Marx put it, each to their own ability, most elves will pretty much be equal in basic labor, and have pretty much the same output, unless they have some unnatural battle wounds. Trades between kingdoms and nations, between elves, men, and of course dwarves, would be agreed upon between kings, ambassadors, and finally actual craftspeople, and use probably the currency of the area as they would have and need none for themselves. Dwarves especially would be very money or gold focused, and often traded their crafts for food especially, and lakemen and elves traded quite a bit, at least in wine. Even if we live forever, it's quite possible that these communistic strategies will not be able to be employed. What will probably happen instead is a post-scarcity era, but with certain things that are actually limited, so they will have to be allocated based on market scarcity of certain jobs and basic income. No matter how long we live, it will be impossible to know everyone on the planet and remember them. There are too many people. Some form of currency will still be needed, though we hopefully won't need it to survive and thrive in the future.